And welcome everyone to Two Stupid Gamers. It's your boy Zero, and I'm accompanied here by BioZ Venom. Yeah, there we go.
Hey,
Pointing at the
what's
boy.
up? I'm the dog in the bowl.
And we are here with the legendary, the one, the only, Eli Farmer.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so for those who don't know, Eli Farmer here is a prodigious voice actor, and you guys see these goggles, so you know we're talking about some Digimon stuff, because Eli here is the new voice actor for old school Joe from Digimon Season 1.
Good
Eli, how are you feeling?
I feel like my blood pressure has finally dropped a little bit. Now that the films are out in the wild and people have held them in their hands and they've physically seen them, and pitchforks didn't come out and tell me that I was the worst Joe actor ever. So that didn't happen. My worst nightmare didn't come true.
I mean, I got my copy right here.
Oh,
and I also
look at
have
that.
my old school copy right here.
A
And I
super
gotta
fan.
tell you, man, because we spoke before, I gotta tell you, like, you weren't lying when you said that you did your best to, like, really get as close as possible to Michael. One second.
Michael Lindsay,
It was,
yeah.
Michael Lindsay's voice,
Mhm.
which, by the way, rest in peace. So, once again, I have to congratulate you because that was some amazing voice work you did there. Unfortunately, our buddy Bio over here has not been able to see the redubs. One day,
no.
don't worry, bro.
I will one
got
day.
my copy.
If anything, I was surprised and caught off guard for saying there was a Digimon Collection movie. I'm like, what? Who? They redubbed it? Why?
Yeah. Why?
I'm like, perfect, but like, wow. I'm glad it's getting some love again.
Yeah, a lot of fans were basically complaining about this old school version that we got in the year 2000. It's been 24 years, Jesus. So yeah, a lot of people were saying, "Oh no, the originals were better. You don't understand. Like the story's so different." And yeah, they're not wrong, but what we got still wasn't bad, especially for that third part. If you let me go on a rant, I will, but I'm not yet because we're here to talk with Eli. So let's get this started. So Eli, I gotta ask you, man, what made you pursue voice acting? Like, what inspired you?
Yeah, oh man, it's a totally roundabout way of like how I got here. That's one of the things I love about talking to other people that are in the industry is that none of us have the same story of like how we arrived. And so for me, it was something I've always been interested in video games and anime and all things like in that sphere. And I grew up, on the Toonami block. I grew up on the Kids WB, all of those things,
Oh man.
that were
Oh,
very
of
like
course.
early. Yeah, very early 2000s. And so I was never someone that was particularly interested in arts or performing or anything like that. But I've always been someone who I think has kind of gravitated towards public speaking, and that's been something that's come naturally to me more or less throughout my life. And so one of my first jobs out of college was I worked as an admissions counselor. And so basically what I did was I would go to different high schools and I would tell kids about college and try to get them involved and get them to come to our university and all that good stuff. And so many times parents would pull me aside and they'd be like, "You are the most like engaging admissions counselor we've ever met. Like we were on the fence about which school we were going to go to, but like after hearing you talk, man, like we want to go to App." And yeah, so it was really exciting, and I felt a lot of just warmth. It felt good, to get that praise from people, and it was performative in a way, because you're trying to woo them, you're trying to get them involved, and I started to think to myself, okay, I really enjoy this, but the thing I hate about my job is how I have to drive everywhere. I hated being on the road. I was like, so where's somewhere where I can kind of just like talk with people, connect with people, or like what's a job that I can do where that's sort of the crux of it and I don't have to drive everywhere. So I started, kind of playing around with this idea of like, oh, maybe voice acting. And again, I'd already been interested in so many of the different types of mediums that voice acting kind of goes through. And so it really became researching like, okay, who does the voices behind these video games that I love, behind these anime that I love, behind these Western cartoons that I love. And then I started really gaining appreciation for the art form, for the actors. But I still wasn't ready to like take that plunge because at that point in time, again, zero acting experience. So I was like, I don't know if I can really do this. And so fate happened to bring me down to Texas for work. I did not move to Texas to be a voice actor. I just moved to Texas because I wanted to live in Texas. Within the first, I want to say it was like 6 months of being here, I realized that Funimation, which is now Crunchyroll, was about 45 minutes from where I worked. And I was like, I wonder if they like do tours. And so I sent an email, and they got back to me, and they're like, we don't really do tours a lot, but we do actually have one coming up, and I can sneak you on there. So I managed to get on a tour. I got to tour Funimation. I got to meet the president at the time, who's responsible for bringing Dragon Ball really to the West and creating that huge boom that we know today. And as I was walking through the halls and just seeing all of the merchandise and all of the posters and memorabilia, and then when we got to the actual voice actor section, I got to see someone actually performing and dubbing a scene, an actress by the name of Danny Chambers, who's incredibly talented in their own right. Ooh. And I remember watching her in the booth and thinking like, I want to do this. All right, this is what I want to do. So I went at home, opened up Google, was like, how to be a voice actor. And then that's pretty much where I was off to the races from there.
Wow. Dang. Okay. So basically being at the right place at the right time, right?
Yeah. As far as getting the spark for the motivation, the actual getting in the door part was about an arduous 4-year process, 2 years of just training, 2 years of marketing yourself. And even then, 4 years is a pretty quick timeline from having zero acting experience to, being in films and and anime and all sorts of things and commercials. So I consider myself incredibly fortunate that things worked out the way that they did.
Yeah. Like 4 years from going from, like what you said, no experience to like already being in like games and anime. That's remarkable if you ask me.
That's
pretty
very lucky.
Yeah, for sure. Man, because I'm a wannabe voice actor. That's what I call myself.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. I call myself that. Me and my buddy BioZ Venom up here, we actually worked together on Metabots Abridged.
Oh, okay.
We were inspired by Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Oh, hilarious.
So like I was saying, in 2016, Team 4-Star held a contest. And then one of my friends, who's not on right now, obviously, he's not in this video, messaged me and said, yo, Zero, you want to get in on this? And I was like, man, which show are we going to abridge? He wanted to do Beyblade. I wanted to do Metabots.
Okay.
So we went with Metabots. We made our first episode. And we just had a really good time. Then I freaking grabbed Bio over here, and I'm like, yo, I need you for a voice. We never got the second episode done, but we'll work on it one day.
Hey, that's still a great start.
And yeah, after like that experience, that's what made me want to be a voice actor, and that's why I'm taking classes with Joshua Seth, by the way.
Our fearless leader.
Yeah, I'm on my way. We'll see.
Excellent.
Oh, the great.
All right. So. Now let's give the audience a little appetizer, because we already know you're the voice actor for Joe, but you also voiced the one of the bosses in Double Dragon Gaiden, Anubis.
That's right.
Where'd you find the inspiration for this role? Like, how'd you come up with like the attitude or like the voice for Anubis?
Sure. So funny thing about Double Dragon is actually a game that my dad and I used to play when I was a kid, like the old arcade. There was this place. I don't even think it exists anymore, but I'm from Virginia Beach, so I grew up near the water. That's why I kind of have like a dude bro voice.
I have family that lives in Virginia, so I've been to Virginia Beach. Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, perfect. Well, there used to be an arcade there. It was called Flipper McCoy's, and me and my dad used to go all the time, and we would play all the games, and Double Dragon was one of them. And so I remember thinking when I got the audition for the project, thinking to myself like, okay, this character, he's kind of got this like coolness to him, and that was kind of in the specs. Like, in my brain, I was thinking like, okay, well, what did cool sound like to me when I was playing Double Dragon as a kid? Like, what would I have imagined, what like a cool villain to sound like? And so that's really kind of what I was trying to sound as cool as I possibly could. Because in my normal speaking voice, it's very like inviting and friendly and just there's not a lot of, I guess, aggression or intimidation that you would normally hear in my speaking voice. So kind of pulling all of that out and really getting down to just this like, praise Anubis, fear me, like getting into that sort of range. And it was actually kind of easy in a lot of ways because you're not really doing anything. You're just down here. Except for when you're doing like the fight excerpt, you're like, you're throwing that stuff around. But as far as the actual talking, I was like, wow, this is like, I feel like I'm not doing anything.
Sort of got like this imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, I think it's because my normal speech is kind of almost performative in nature. And I think that's just the way that I've always been. I've always kind of been very expressive. I talk with my hands a lot. I move around a lot. And so really packing that in and taking that out, was probably the harder part for me.
No, yeah, definitely. Like whenever I try doing any sort of voice work for anything, my hands are going all over the place.
Yeah, I try not to ding the mic.
Oh my goodness. The amount of times I hit the microphone just for making videos for the channel, like, oh my God. All right. So, fun, definitely. I mean, I've tried voicing for villains before. I've tried having fun with that. And yeah, being a villain can be fun. You're just like, I'm gonna murder you, you little shit. Like, stuff like that. Like, it can just be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I was thinking about Joshua Seth, as you had mentioned, because I watched tons of interviews with other voice actors and panels and stuff. I did that before I started really working in the industry, and I still do it now because it's something I enjoy. But he was at a panel once and he said something, or maybe it was even on his podcast, but he was talking about playing a villain and saying something to the effect of like, well, if you're playing this all-powerful, almighty villain, why do you need to be over the top in your gestures and your actions if you can snap your fingers and kill somebody, right? Like, that person wouldn't need to exert themselves. They would just really be more sort of down here, and it is what it is. And I was like, oh yeah. And I think I incorporated some of that as well into my performance. But yeah, so playing Anubis was cool. I wish I really enjoyed the fact that it was something that was just kind of like in and out. We got it done. It was a very short recording that we did on our own, and then once it was wrapped up, it was over. But part of me wishes that there was like, I wish we could have had like more dialogue heavy, but it's kind of tough to do that in a beat 'em up game.
No, I definitely hear what you're saying. We're huge beat 'em up fans on this channel. We've played.
Oh heck yeah!
Hell yeah! Are you kidding me? Like we played. Well, back in the day on my own, I played Double Dragon Neon. It was like one of those various remakes they made.
Okay, right on.
On the channel, we played through all of River City Girls 1. And that kind of expanded in my mind what a beat 'em up can be, because they actually have cutscenes for some of the characters and some of the bosses. So I was kind of hoping, because I haven't played Double Dragon Gaiden yet, I was kind of hoping they did that for it. Doesn't seem like they did, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more like text as far as moving the story along.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about Sasaki and Peeps.
Oh,
yeah. So you played the role of Mark. I gotta be honest, I never heard of the anime. I never heard of it before. So could you tell us a bit about, the anime itself and the character you play as?
Sure. Yeah, I was in that same boat with you when I got the actual part for Mark. I was like, what is this show? Doing my research and trying to figure out what it is, because it wasn't something that I had auditioned for that show. We do all kinds of auditions all the time, and so you never know. Like, you might get booked for something because of a bit part you did in another show. Like, and a director was like, this person was really great to work with. And they might just pass your name along. Like, you just never know. But I just got the email and they were like, hey, they want to cast you as Mark and Sasaki and Peeps. And I was like, I don't remember reading for that show, but yes, absolutely, I'll do it.
What's that? You want me in a show? I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much. And so Sasaki and Peeps is about this 40-year-old, I think he's in his 40s, either late 30s, early 40s, middle-aged gentleman named Sasaki. And he is your typical kind of like salaryman, businessman type. But he's incredibly diligent and I would say earnest. He's not sleazy. He's not like out to like get people. He's just like a hardworking dude who lives like a very simple and modest life. And he loves cute animals. Like, that's his thing. He loves cute animals. But on the salary that he has, he can't afford to get like, a dog or a cat. But he goes to the pet store one day and there's this sparrow that's on sale, and it's actually within his budget. So he's like, all right, so he takes the bird home, and he's like, I'm so excited. And then the bird starts talking to him like an actual person, and he thinks like, oh, it's like a parrot type deal, like it's just like parroting human speech. And then he was like, actually, those are like very coherent sentences. I think this bird is actually speaking to me. And then the bird reveals itself to be this. I don't want to spoil the plot, but the bird sort of reveals itself to be a very powerful entity that is now in the body of a bird. And then from that point, Peeps, the bird, he isekais Sasuke into the world where he's from. And in their world, it's a little bit more, I would say, like, I guess, 15th century technology. And so Sasuke, being the businessman that he is, he pieces together like, hold on, I can go back between my world and this world, and in this world they're like really far behind in terms of technology. So what he does is he takes like basically convenience store goods from the modern day and like goes to this other world and sells them at this like crazy upcharge. So it's like binoculars, like what is this? These things you put on your eyes and they like let you see like thousands of feet away, and so everyone in this other world, their mind is blown by all these like miraculous goods that Sasuke is able to, like candy bars and chocolates and things like batteries. They're like, what is this? And so he's blowing all these people's minds, and so he gets rich. But my character Mark facilitates all of this trade. So I'm the middleman. So Sasuke comes through with the goods. I get him to connect, and then everybody makes tons of money, and then hijinks and shenanigans unfold. So that's kind of a synopsis of Sasuke and Peeps.
That actually sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I think I've seen a clip or two of that, and it's just like everyone's just dumbfounded by the technology or the idea that he introduced.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Man, what luck to be like, oh, birdie, it's like a parrot. Nah, bro, I'm just gonna take you to a different world. Wait, what?
Yeah.
But
man, that's crazy.
I have this question because it's similar to the other roles you've been into. How does it feel to be isekai into the Overlord world as the Male Soldier Z?
I did some good research. So recently I got to have my first experience of being in a film that was in theaters, and so I got to play a very, very small bit part in the new Overlord: The Sacred Kingdom film. And so, I played Male Soldier Z. I say one line, but I'm in a bunch of background wall scenes, getting blown up and crushed by demons and fighting people and X, Y, and Z.
As you do.
But yeah. So it was fun in the sense that just the experience of being in a theater. I would have been happy to just been like, hey, and like just said hey. If all I had to do was say hey in the movie, that would have been a win for me. Like, oh my gosh, that's my voice coming out of the
you got the movie under your belt now.
Yeah. So it was a tremendous experience, and I really actually enjoyed the movie a ton for someone who wasn't really familiar with the Overlord franchise prior. My fiance and I went to go see it together, and she was like locked in. I was like, whoa. Like normally she's like, it's kind of hard to hold her attention, because I would say we watched anime together, but she's seen like Naruto and Yu Yu Hakusho, and like she's used to like the big hitters, So
big threes.
The good old school stuff.
Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit tougher sometimes to get her in on the things that aren't like literally like the big of anime, like My Hero Academia. Like, of course, that stuff's gonna win over the general audience, but when things get like a little bit more niche, it can be harder to kind of get someone on the outskirts to lock in. But she was totally in for the movie, and we had a great time. It was a great experience, and I was incredibly thankful, and I felt very fortunate to have had a part in Overlord. So yeah.
Great question there, Bio. That was awesome. So now let's go ahead with this other thing, because Sierra Ops. I looked up this this game. It seems to be like a visual novel, and also Heart Fragment. They're visual novels, right? These are visual novel games?
Yeah. So they definitely would fall in that visual novel, more or less, space. I would say that Sierra Ops, though, is a little bit more. It's got some visual novel elements, but it's I think the crux of the gameplay is more like what's the name I'm looking for? Tactical role play. It's like
strategy.
Yeah, it's like a down view, and you're
Eagle
like
eye?
controlling spaceship.
Top down.
Top down. That's what it is.
Yeah, top-down
Yeah.
strategy game. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Top-down strategy game. So yeah, it's about space combat and all that good stuff. Sierra Ops was actually the first ever. Let me get this right. Sierra Ops was the first ever character role that I had ever booked in my entire career.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I played a character by the name of Alan, and I think he's just the way I would describe him is like the ideal model soldier type. Like in terms of his personality and his demeanor, like he's very, very calm. He's very collected. He's very professional. He's more of a no nonsense sort of guy, but not like booming drill sergeant type. Just like, I'm here to do my job, and there's a gentleness to his voice because you can tell that he's kind of got some things in his past because he's I want to say like cybernetic from the waist down. So like his head is human, but like he's gone through some things, so he's got some pretty serious cybernetic parts happening on his body. But I was so excited. I was like, holy crap, it's going to be a video game, and I booked something, and yeah, I was just really happy. And a fun story about how I got the parts of Alan. I did not audition for it. There was no casting call. So when I first got into voiceover, just trying to get more microphone time, just trying to get more used to the idea of hearing my own voice. I used to make these like kind of voice acting related skits about like, the struggles of being a voice actor and like the things that we go through X, Y, and Z. Because for me, I just wanted to, again, have more time behind the microphone, more time to sort of editing, getting used to my own voice. And someone saw one of my skits and was like, hey, I actually really like your voice. I would think you'd be great for this character in this video game.
Whoa,
so I got this part in this game from a skit that I made and posted on Twitter. So you just never know how opportunities will present themselves. And
so that was your first role. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Always put your best foot forward with everything that you do and give it your all, because you never know who's paying attention or who's listening.
Yo, that's awesome for being a first role to be in like a sort of anime-ish video game thing. That's amazing. That's badass. Hey everyone, it's your boy Zero cutting in here real quick, wanting to let you know that we really appreciate you guys watching this interview with Eli Farmer over here. However, we had to cut out quite a bit of footage from this interview. So if you guys want to see a more uncut version of this interview, go ahead and follow us on our Discord, where you can see a more uncut version of this video that'll be posted a little bit later. All right, and with that, back to the rest of the interview. Alrighty, now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's talk about the Digimon the Movies Collection, because at the time of posting this video, it's either going to be out or it's going to be literally the next day it's coming out. So I hope everybody has their copies ordered and it's in the mail. So let's talk about it. You took over the role of Joe Kido, or Kido. I'm pretty sure it's Kido. And I gotta say, man, you sound so close to Michael Lindsay. Rest in peace. So let's get into this. So is Joe like a favorite character of yours?
Yeah, I would love to say that Joe was my favorite character, but I would be lying. I was a Tai guy. Tai was my favorite.
Yes, Tai all day.
Yeah, I was all in on the
Joshua.
goggles. I loved Agumon, the whole idea, of the Crest of Courage, Metal Greymon, and for me, yeah, and I was also, I think, like a lot of kids, I was drawn to the person that was front. I always wanted to be the Red Power Ranger. I always wanted to be the front person. But I will say one of the things that I do distinctly remember as watching Digimon, as a kid, I loved Zudomon. Zudomon was my favorite ultimate Digimon. I always thought he was so cool. And so when the opportunity came around to voice Joe, it was something like, I wasn't thinking about Joe 24/7 constantly, but I had spent so much time in just absorbing Digimon content that like I knew Joe's voice in my head. And so I was incredibly excited to even read for it, because I remember we got the auditions, my first thought was like, is this real? Like, is this like
actually happening?
Yeah, I was like, it's like a fan project, like what's going on here? This is like real Digimon. And I honestly didn't think that I didn't think I was gonna book it, because I had never practiced like a Joe voice before. I had never attempted it. I had never done anything like it. So I just got the audition. I watched some clips and refreshed my memory, and then I just kind of went for it. And
Dude, no, that is awesome. Seriously, like, I probably would have been in the same boat as you if I had gotten anybody else's role. Because, I don't know if you did, but I definitely did. I tried doing other characters' voices. I mean, Bio over here has heard me do my Gabumon voice. Matt, no, don't go! Like, stuff like that.
I've done Gilmon.
Oh yeah, he can actually do a pretty good Gilmon impersonation.
I can't do it on the spot. Maybe I could probably try it now. Takatorman.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's pretty close.
Can I have some bread, Takatorman?
Greymon, Garurumon, I've done those voices too. Like, I've had fun with that as a kid growing up, obviously.
Yeah.
So if I somehow booked any of those roles, I probably would have died and then had to be resurrected to actually do the parts. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, I think that obviously just getting to be part of the digital world is so incredibly exciting, and I think that even if I had just booked the part without the original cast coming back, it still would have been the most amazing, exciting thing. But the fact that I get to act alongside the voices that I grew up hearing on television, I just feel like the luckiest person on planet Earth, and I'm so thankful for everything that has happened so far. And you know, I joke with my fiance all the time. I'm like, what are my goals now? Like, I don't know, where do I go from here? You know, like, this is it. Like,
your goals for now is to become the best villain role ever. I need to hear more of your villain role. I want to hear more villains from you.
on the to-do list, on the checkbox. But yeah, so again, playing Joe, it's a character that I have definitely grown a lot more appreciation for. Even before, I would say, the announcement came out, even before I got involved. Like, as I grew older, you know, going into 02 and Digimon Adventure Tri, like, I started to relate with Joe a lot more as I sat down and thought about it. I was like, that's actually probably more so how I would respond to these situations. You know, like, if I was trapped in another world, I would not be the courageous one. I'd be crying in a corner, begging for someone to come save us and get us home. You know, I'd be thinking about scraping my knee and getting an infection and all of these different things, you know, that a responsible young person would think of. So I definitely relate with Joe in that way. I think we're both anxious fellows when it comes to those types of things. And so, yeah, I've grown that appreciation for Joe, and it was so cool watching him come into his own, you know, over the course of the series. Because even just in Adventure 2, like, you know, Joe's like, he's cool, calm, and collected most of the time, except for, like, you know, when he thinks his dad is fake dying. That one episode.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that episode.
Yeah, when Cody tries to get a hold of him, he's just like, yo, come on, your dad's dying. What?
Yeah. So he truly does enter that, like, old reliable phase, and I feel that in my own life. I think a lot of people would refer to me as reliable. You know, I may not be the most talented, I may not be the most gifted or the smartest, but you can always count on me to show up. I'll be there. You know, I might not do the best job, but I'm always going to show up. And so I really relate to that aspect of Joe.
That's what's up. No, dude, definitely I agree with you, because as I grew up, I'm the same way as you, Eli. Like, I was just thinking to myself, man, how would I have reacted as a 10-year-old getting sucked into a world literally full of monsters that could literally kill me?
Yeah.
Very, very similar. I think I probably would have crapped my pants, let's be honest.
I think we all would.
Yeah, honestly, let's not lie to ourselves. So, when it comes to actually getting the role, like, how'd you find out about it? Like, who's your in, man?
My in? So I got the audition through Sound Cadence, which is a recording studio owned by Amberly Connors, and Marissa Lindsay does a lot of work out of there, directs a lot of their projects. And so I want to say it was during the peak COVID time. Marissa had put a call on Twitter and was just like, hey, I'm looking for actors to submit to our roster. She was looking for specific types of categories of people. I can't remember the age range or necessarily, but I fell into the group. I was like, hey, I meet the threshold for this. And so I sent in my demo, and she was like, these are great. Fill out these forms. We'd love to add you to the roster. And so then I sort of got added to their roster for auditions, and so I started auditioning for things through them. And I didn't book anything, you know, I want to say for maybe 6 months or so, maybe even a year that I was on that roster. Right. And then I ended up booking my first ever anime role through Sound Cadence, which was Dragon Ghost House Hunting. And so that role was sort of how I started working more consistently with sound cadence. And then I did some background Wallace stuff for Marissa on a project. And so we worked together, but it was very brief. I don't know if she even really remembers that interaction. It was so short. Yeah, so we worked on another show, a couple of cuckoos, and yeah, so that was my first interaction with Marissa. And so then when the auditions came around, I want to say maybe like 2 years later, I just happened to get the audition because I was still on the Sound Cadence roster. So it wasn't like I had some agent connection or anything like that. I just happened to be on the Sound Cadence roster, and they sent it out to their roster, and lo and behold, I happened to be, the person on planet Earth that could best match Joe's original performance.
Oh, dude, that is awesome. Like literally just being there and being like, hey, yeah, your voice is actually pretty close. Wait, what, really?
I couldn't believe it either. I was shocked. I was like, really? Like, for real? Like me? You sure you don't want like someone else? Because I thought for sure that even if they were going to recast the role, I thought it would go to some super veteran, actor who had been in the industry for years or something like that. I was like, they wouldn't trust this to kind of like a no-name person who has like no real credits or experience or anything like that. But that's one of the beautiful things about these projects that are made with so much passion is they're going to pick who they think is actually best for the role, and all those other variables aren't going to come into play. They want to service the project. They want to service the fan. And not to say that there's anything wrong with booking, Steve Bloom or Johnny Young Bosch for anything, because they're incredibly talented and they deserve to be in every single thing that they're in. But that's, for me, like when I think of a brand like Digimon, those are the types of voice actors that I think of. I'm like, they're not calling Eli Farmer. They're calling the big dogs. And so when I got the email, I was like, yeah, I just remember sprinting around my house and calling my fiance and being like, this is actually happening. No freaking way. And I will tell y'all, I did not feel confident that I was not going to get recast until the movies were screened and they had announced that I was in it. I was like, up until that day, I was like, no, they replaced me with somebody else. I don't know, they called freaking Crispin Freeman or something. Like, I've been replaced. Like, there's no way that they left me in. And yeah, I was psyching myself out because I had no reason to think that I was going to get recast or anything. But I was so afraid that something this good, this miraculous couldn't happen to me. And then it did. And so, yeah, I'm so thankful that it did.
Dude, seriously, I probably would have reacted the same way. I probably would have run out of my apartment and screamed at the top of my lungs, I'm in Digimon! Ah!
Also, there's
police would have came, arrested me, to take me to the loony bin.
Yeah.
There's also one thing to remember. Stephen Bloom, Johnny Young Bosch, those people were like starting in Digimon. They were their first roles, I bet. Maybe second or third. They weren't named actors yet.
Valid,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a big likelihood. Let's not forget. I mean, Johnny Young Bosch was in Power Rangers first, and then transitioned into voice acting.
What is your favorite partner Digimon?
My favorite partner Digimon. Ooh.
Or if you had to choose, who would you be your partner Digimon?
Oh, okay. I'll answer both. I'll answer both of those questions. So I think as far as my favorite partner that I've seen like in the show someone has as their partner, I probably would go with Guillemon.
Yes. Bread lover.
I think I'd go only because he's the. I mean, all of the Digimon are very animal-like, but he's the most that's just like a puppy. He's like just like a dog,
100%.
He's very loyal.
And so I think that we would just vibe really well. And red's my favorite color, and it's so funny too because Takado basically drew Guillemon like fanfic. What if Agumon was just even cooler?
Yeah, it's true.
And then as far as who would I pick if I could just pick any Digimon, to be my partner, I would probably pick Dorumon because Dorumon is my favorite Mega, and so I think I'd pick Dorumon as my partner. I think we'd get along.
Wait, Dorumon, is his Mega Alphamon?
Yes. He's two Megas.
Well, it's one
he
of
has
his
two
Megas.
Megas. I always thought he had one Mega.
I guess technically he has three because you've got Dex, Dorumon, but tomato.
To be fair, all the Digimons can evolve into each other.
That's
Yeah, that's one thing we got to remember. Alrighty, so let's keep this this fan train going, right? When auditioning for the role, did you know you were auditioning for Joe? And if so, like, did you use a certain line to like get yourself in character?
Yeah, so I knew I was auditioning for Joe. So it wasn't a secret of who you were reading for. I think because of the fact that we were doing voice matches, like you needed to, obviously be able to reference and research and all of that good stuff. And the line, because I don't know, for folks that have seen Digimon the movie, if you go back and you actually do like a line count of Joe, like he doesn't really say a ton, and so there isn't like a lot to reference in terms of that particular film. But there was one line that I would always go back to, and I think it's in this movie still. It wasn't something that we had to change. Well, I mean, we had to re-record it, but like the dialogue, the line itself didn't change. So there's a part where the missile is about to hit, and there's a minute left. And that line is like how I get into Joe still. Like if I'm like around the house and I'm like, I want to like practice my Joe voice. Like what do? I go 1 minute to go, and like that's how I get into Joe, is by doing that line. And it's hard to describe what my body is feeling to people, because when you're someone who originates the role, you're just talking, and you might be thinking about the placement. But Joe is Michael Lindsay. He really set me up, man.
Yo,
Joe is a tough voice in the sense that when he reacts, he is very like, ah! But when he's like talking, it's very like, and so you kind of have to get the nasally and the like rasp at the same time. So it's tough to do those two things simultaneously. But yeah, so it's an interesting task being Joe, but I have found my way of getting into my space, and that line is absolutely crucial for me doing that.
No, that is literally one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because you have this nuke. It's not just a missile; it's a whole nuke. We're going right back to World War II with this stuff. It's a whole nuke. He doesn't even know what's going on. He's just worried about the test, and I'm just like, dude, why are you worried about the test? The whole freaking city you're in is gonna disintegrate. Yeah. So tell us how it felt landing the role. Like, what was the first thing that came to mind?
So the first thing that came to my mind was, this isn't real. They must have made a mistake. They emailed the wrong person. Surely there must be another Eli Farmer or something that they meant to email, and it's not me. But after I read it about 20 or 30 times and was like, no, this is actually me. Holy crap, I'm gonna be in Digimon. And so I got that initial wave of excitement, right? And then came the next stage, which was tremendous pressure. It was like, oh, whoa, wait, hold on a second. Now I actually have to go perform and do this to the scrutiny of not just like a handful of people, because at this point in time, I had never been in a project with this much exposure before. This is a franchise that is viewed by millions of people, like not an exaggeration, quite literally millions of people across the globe. Because you got to think, like, the English language track is not just for America. It's the UK, it's Australia, it's anywhere where they speak English as a language, which is all over the world. Or just morbid curiosity. The Japanese people might want to be like, oh, what's the English version sound like? So you're going to be exposed to so many more people. And I was like, like all the thoughts of the spotlights and then the pressure that would come with that. Especially because you are stepping into a role that was originated by someone else. There's this additional level of pressure to honor that legacy, right? Because the last thing I want to do is besmirch the work that came before me. And so then it was like, all right, time to lock in. Like I gotta go all in on this preparation. And so from the time that I had gotten the email that like, you are going to be Joe, to the time that I recorded, I had taken all of Joe's lines from the original Digimon the movie, and I had put them on an MP3, and I just listened to them around my house nonstop. In fact, the day before I went into record, I listened to it for 24 hours straight, like in my ears. Did not take it out, just loop over and 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 over again. Just the same like 3 or 4 lines, just on a loop. And so I was like, I want to give this everything that I've got, because it means so much to me personally, but I know how much it's going to mean to fans. And the fact that we're getting a redub at all, right? Like you get
No, seriously.
Yeah, like you get one of those. You don't get a second redub. So like if you mess up the redub, they're not gonna reread the you know what I mean? So I was like, you have to nail this because this is probably the last time for human history that Digimon the movie or Digimon the movies, right? Like this is the last time that they're ever going to probably put money into this project. So you gotta really knock this one out of the park. And now that it has been released and people have seen it, you know, I feel that like that wave of relief that I didn't botch it and I didn't crush it. But yeah, so that's how I felt after I booked the role. It was a wave of excitement, then a wave of pressure, and that pressure has finally released as of now.
Seriously, I likely would have, if anything, I probably would have psyched myself out to the point where when I did go to record, I was gonna like mess it up. But obviously it's voiceover, like you get multiple tries. Oh my god. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I probably would have messed it up at some point. Or at least felt the same way you did. Like, oh my God, there's no way they kept me in. Like you said earlier, there's no way they kept me in. They replaced me.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I have to give so much credit to our director, Marissa Linty, in that I think that she could hear my, like, nerves, you know, through the microphone, which kind of is helpful for Joe. It's kind of helpful to sound a little nervous, right? Because he's Joe.
Yeah, he's the nervous boy.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I think it was partly to my benefit, but she did such a fantastic job of just like putting me at ease and like making me feel like we hired you for a reason. You're supposed to be here. You got this. We got plenty of time. Let's just dig it. It's Digimon. Let's just be excited that we're working on Digimon, and let's just focus on that and how cool this is. And don't worry about what the fans are going to say. Don't worry about the audience reaction. Just enjoy this moment and just soak it in. And that was, worth more to me than I think that she will ever know. No matter how much I express it, you know, it really did change things for me. And I think about my experience in that session with her. And she directed all of us. So that's why I know that the project turned out to be so amazing, because if that TLC was given to me and that TLC was given to everyone else, that love, you know, will shine through the project in its entirety.
No, I gotta be honest. When I saw the announcement, I had to hold back tears because I'm just like, there's no way this is happening. I'm dreaming. I was on my way to like a family function too. Like I'm in the car, I'm on Twitter, and I'm like, am I reading this right? Okay, so I'm not dreaming.
Yeah.
What? And they got everyone back, and whoever couldn't come back, they found voice matches? Yeah. That was rough for me. Alrighty, so when it comes to voicing Joe, like obviously you're stepping into the big shoes that Michael Lindsay left. Like, did you take an inspiration from his original performances? Like you said earlier that you listened to all the previous performances, but did you listen to anything like from the show or like anything else?
Yeah, of course. So obviously the movie, but the show as well. Actually, I want to say it was maybe 2 years prior to booking the role. I had just showed my fiance Digimon for the first time. So we had watched all of Adventure and then all of 02 together. And so it was actually pretty fresh on my mind. But when it comes to Michael Lindsay specifically, we were also watching Naruto at the time, and he plays Kankuro in that show. So I was again getting the refresher of his voice as well. It wasn't like I was doing it in preparation for the role. It just happened coincidentally to work out that way. But I want to say the thing that I think helped me the most was just researching what I could find about him. Not necessarily his role as Joe. I got to give a special shout out to, I think it's 98.1 or 98.9, 90 point something The Fan. So if you go to YouTube right now and you type in Michael Lindsay interview, there's only one interview that exists of him. And it was because of this. It's like a college radio station. They got him on, and they interviewed him. I want to say for maybe like an hour, and he talked about his life. He talked about his family. You know, he talked about his experience with all of the different series that he had been in. And I gleaned so much from that, in terms of what does he sound like when he's saying all of these different types of words, right? Because I knew that we were redubbing the movies, and so the lines weren't all going to be the same, and there was going to be different things that he had never said before, and different types of maybe inflections that he hadn't used before. So I needed to get as much data on him as I possibly could, and just hearing his normal speaking voice, I think, helped a lot as well. And I really also gained an appreciation for him doing that research, hearing about his, like, you know, his colleagues and fans alike talking about how much they appreciated him and how much of a joy he was to work with. And it was one of the things I think that, say, Jeff Nimoy, who voices Tintomon in Digimon, but he also directed a large portion of the original series, and I think maybe 02 as well. And then obviously he did Digimon Data Squad. But he talked about, you know, how fun it was to record Michael Lindsay. And so, again, I took all of that into consideration when I was doing my practice. And yeah, again, I really just, I want to honor the memory of what came before me for no other reason than it's what I feel is right and what should be done.
Excellent. Oh man, I had no idea that Michael Lindsay only had like that one interview. Like, how lucky are we as fans, and how lucky are you as like the performer to like just have that? Like, I probably wouldn't even thought about looking up interviews, because I would have been like, oh, there's probably just too many. I'll just focus on the voice. Like that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you definitely talked about this before, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So what was the most challenging aspect of voicing Joe?
So obviously, like I mentioned, just finding the placement of the voice, because my speaking voice is like Joe adjacent. It's like you can hear some of it in my speech, but like you can't hear it a ton. So it's like I can get there and just kind of find that placement. But the thing that I would say was most challenging for these films in particular was, not that I've done, you know, Joe before, but just for this experience, the thing that I would say was, because, you know, we did 3 different films and 3 different eras of Joe. And so Baby Joe in the very first movie is, you know, we tried to make it sound like he was a little bit younger, right? And so it's like, not only do you have to have this placement now, but now you have to move it a little bit while maintaining the qualities and make him sound younger. And then you go into 02, Joe's a little bit older, so it's like now you make him sound like a little bit, you know, a little bit more while maintaining that placement, but moving it around. So I would say that was a challenge as well. And it wasn't something that was like necessarily in the forefront of my mind, but again, I did my research on all of the Joe material I could prior to this. I thought about Robbie Damon's performance in Digimon Adventure Tri. And so he's playing, obviously, this much older Joe than we're accustomed to. And then he was in Last Evolution Kizuna as well. I was trying to think to myself, like, as I was, you know, going into it, not necessarily in the session, I was like, okay, how do you bridge that gap between Michael Lindsay and Robbie Damon, but like honor the voice match? Because that was more so I was thinking like in terms of Hurricane Touchdown, like in 02. Yeah. I was like, okay, so you're kind of going to be in between there. But it sort of worked out pretty well where in Hurricane Touchdown, funny enough, I ended up de-aging back into younger Joe. So it wasn't even a thing that I really I needed to concern myself with. So in some ways, looking back, I might have over-prepared, if you could even say that. Because I know a lot of times actors will say, like, you don't want to go in there and be rigid and be too married to things. But it just meant so much to me. I wanted to think of every possible avenue and thing that could play into it.
No, seriously, excellent. I want to thank you for doing all that work, because it really did pay off. Like, Bio, you got to understand, like, especially in... like, I don't even know how to explain.
The more you talk about it, the more I'm like, what did I miss in the American? Like, I did not realize there was more to this lore.
So, Eli, I gotta ask, you're a Digimon fan, but what made you a Digimon fan? Like, what about the anime, movies, or games launched you into, like, this whole Digimon fandom?
Launched me into the Digimon fandom? Well, I was in the key demo. I remember when Digimon premiered. And I think, you know, the Americanization, the localization, I think it worked on me. I think that the music, Digimon, like I think it got me as a little kid, because that time I was 5 years old, and I also appreciated that it was kind of one of my first experiences, I would say, with like autonomy, because it was something that I was like, I want to watch that show, and my mom was like, okay. And I remember when Digimon the Movies came out, and I was like, I want to see this movie, and she was like, okay. And now, you know, at that age, like everything prior to that was like selected for you, you know.
Yeah.
Your parents, they cut on cartoons, or they take you to the movies that they think that you might like. That was really the age where I started to be like, well, this is actually what I want to watch, or this is what I want to do. And my mom was very receptive and respected those things. And I think that has served me so well throughout my life, in that I had a mom that was like, you know, I just want you to be a good person. As long as you're a good, moralistic, non-criminal, as far as whatever your interests and hobbies are, like, I'll support those, you know. I have two military parents, and so both my parents were in the Navy. And so obviously there's definitely rules and structure and all that stuff for sure. But when it comes to what you do in your leisure and your free time, she's like, yeah, do the things that make you happy, because you're the one that has to do it. It's not me, you know, it's your free time. And I think the thing that also really locked me in, so it was like a full 360 deal, right? So I'm watching the Digimon shows. My mom's buying me all the Digimon coloring books. We had a PlayStation 1. I got Digimon World when it came out on the first PlayStation.
Hell yeah.
I'm playing Digimon World. I'm watching Digimon every Saturday. I'm drawing in my Digimon coloring books. I'm like Digimon 24/7. So I basically was like the Manchurian candidate for Digimon. It's just like I heard the theme song and got activated sort of deal. So I think that for me it was a right place, right time. But the thing that has continued to hold my interest and bring me back to Digimon, you know, through my teenage years, into college, into adulthood now, I think is I really appreciate this idea of what is it in 02, the million points of light. Like, anyone can be a Digidestined. Like, anyone can be special. Like, there's an opportunity for anyone to sort of be involved. And not just talking about Digimon specifically, but my mom always used to tell me that when I was a kid. She's like, you know, everyone has a story. You just have to be willing to listen. And I really love messages that kind of speak to, like, calling people in, inviting people in. And yeah, so I think that's kind of how I got started and why I've continued to stick with it. I love that message of bringing others in.
Honestly, that's actually one of the reasons why I've stuck with it for so long, especially in, like, well, again, the movie, like, we see our first American Digidestined, and he's like special because he has twin Digimon, and I'm like, that can happen?
Yeah.
For me, it's like the idea of having a life partner, like Tai and Agumon, Man and Gabumon. They were their best friends. They're true life partner, sticking together to the very end, and that's why I will never watch Last Kazuna.
It hurts too much.
You've watched it, right, Eli?
I've seen I've read the plot. I heard the plot. I have not seen the movie. I refuse to acknowledge that movie. And then the movie Digimon 02, the beginning, retcons everything, and it should retcon Last Kazuna, but Tai, Agumon and Magama got messed up. They did them wrong. They did them dirty.
All right, Eli. So we're pretty much done with all the Digimon question stuff. We discussed a lot. So let's talk about this now. What do you think? What is one thing that you think aspiring voice actors don't really realize when, you know, about voice acting, that you can only really get when, like, you're experiencing it?
I would say that I'm going to use a reference here for My Hero Academia fans. This is a really specific one. But there's the characters of All Might and Endeavor, and there's an episode where Hawks is talking to Endeavor about how Endeavor views All Might, he viewed him as the number one hero, right? And he viewed the gap between the two of them as this massive chasm that he could never close. But Hawks is like, you felt that way because you were right there in it. But me, as the third person, the gap between you two was a lot closer than you realized. You know, you just had to be persistent, and maybe one day you could have even closed it, sort of deal. And that's what I would tell folks is, when you're on the outside, before you go into a Crunchyroll, before you go into a Bang Zoom or something like that, you know, you see these very prolific voice actors doing these huge projects, working at these studios, and you think, there is so much space between me and them. Like, there's no way that I could perform at that level under that schedule and that space. And then when you finally do get in there and you actually do the work, you realize, oh, there isn't really that much of a difference in my skill today as there was maybe a year or 2 years ago when I wasn't in this position, right? Like, my skill has definitely improved, but the gap wasn't this massive thing that I thought that I would never close. and you realize that these people that you view as your idols, as your role models, which is great to have role models, but you start to realize, oh, they're human too. And one of the things that I think that I really loved about this new project, Digimon the Movies, is this isn't a huge spoiler for folks, but there is a blooper reel, and one of the things that I gleaned from that in that moment was, oh my gosh, they mess up just like I do. They make mistakes, they flub lines just like I do. Oh my, they're not, because you know how sometimes the blooper reel is like a staged blooper reel where it's like not actually them making, but this was like a true blue, like they were actually messing up, and they put it on the disc, and that just it did so much for my confidence of being like, okay, I can get there. I can reach that point. I can have that longevity in my career. I can reach that skill level, you know, to the idols that I have. I can reach that level that I aspire to be at one day, and it is possible. So that's what I would say to folks is the gap is a lot closer than you think that it is, so long as you are persistent and you do the right kinds of work.
Definitely inspiring, because I've been in that headspace too, man. Like, I'm just here thinking to myself, oh my god, I'm interviewing a voice actor, Eli Farmer. He agreed to it. Oh my god, this guy, he's like where I'm trying to be at, and he's over there, and I'm like, yeah, but also remember, everybody's a human. Everybody makes mistakes, and I really also appreciated that blooper reel. I went and saw and heard it, and I'm just like, this is hilarious. This is legitimately funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, like, again, I have been working as a professional voice actor for 4 years, right? 4 years ago, no one knew my name in the voice acting space. No one had ever, really not that many people know my name now, for being totally honest. I mean, you know, some hyper Digimon fans might know, you know, who I am. But I walk through the hallways of Crunchyroll and, like, you know, some of the staff says hi, and the occasional voice actor will, hey, but no one's like, oh my god, it's you. Like that. That's just not, it's not my experience. You know what I mean? I've been on the other side of that. You know, every time I walk into Crunchyroll, it feels like Avengers HQ. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Chris Sabat. Oh my gosh, that's Monica Real. Oh my gosh, oh my god, you know what I mean? So I still definitely am like fanning out, but you know, no one is doing that for me, and so whenever I have the opportunity to speak to people, I always want to just drive home that message. Like, there is not that big of a gap between where you are as a fan who's aspiring to be a voice actor and where I'm at right now. And probably conversely, I'm sure that if I sat down and talked to Chris, he might be like, yeah, dude, there's not that much of a gap between me and you. You're like, you could be here in a couple of years if you just stick with it and be persistent. So just, yeah, the gap's a lot closer than you think that it is.
Very, very, very inspirational. I hope everybody at home is getting something out of this. Go ahead, Bio. What did you want to say?
No, I was gonna say the same thing. Very inspirational to aspiring voice actors.
Alrighty, let's get on to this last question, Eli. So, here's a good one. What's a question you'd always want to answer about your voice acting career?
A question that I've always wanted to answer. That's such a good question.
That's a thinker.
Yeah. I think that, because I'm like, oh, what would I have always wished that I could espouse or talk about more? You know, something that I could express, right? Because that's what I'm really digging at. I want to talk about myself more. I've always, not always, but I think the thing that pops into my head when you ask me that question is being asked about your favorite, like, peer or actor that you work alongside. I love, you know, hearing these stories, because again, I'm a fan still. Like, I work in the industry, but I'm a fan of voice actors, right? So I always love hearing stories where someone's like, oh, you know, we were hanging out, and you know, you find out that this voice actor is really good friends with that voice actor. Like, I love hearing those kinds of stories of them interacting. Like, one of the first handful of voice actors, I would say, that I remember responding to me when I was just getting started and like just reaching out and asking questions, was Rico Fajardo. And he voices Mirio Togata in My Hero Academia, and a slew of other characters. He's in Dr. Stone as well. He's a very extensive resume and done tons of amazing things. But listening to him talk about his relationship with a newer voice actor. Her name is Lexi Nieto. She voiced Tomo in Tomo-chan is a Girl, which was a popular kind of like slice of life show that had come out, and I want to say the last anime season. But listening to those two talk about their interactions outside of voiceover, and then when you watch the two of them perform together in that show, Tomo-chan is a Girl, you can see how that blends in. You can see how that real life friendship they have blends into the performance. And so I love talking about, you know, the other actors that I've been able to make a connection with, so that if you go back and you watch a performance and that we're in something together, you can be like, oh, like maybe that's why they have like such a good rapport, or like, well, that's why they have like, you know, a better back and forth. So for example, when I'll talk about Sasuke and Peeps, Tyson Reinhardt, he voices Sasuke, the main character in that show, and we had never met. Like, we had never had a conversation, and that happens all the time in voiceover, right? Like, because we're not in the same room at the same time. But we had gotten booked for a Walla session on another show together, and I recognized the name. I was like, Tyson. I was like, you're Sasuke and Sasuke and Peeps, and he was like, yes, I am. And I was like, I'm Mark, and he was like, oh my gosh, you did so great. And so we had this really fun, like, getting to meet each other interaction. And Sasuke and Peeps has been announced for a second season. Now, I don't know if we're going to dub that second season,
Nice.
but it has been announced for a second season.
Yeah.
And now going into that second season, I know that if we have a scene together now in that next season, which more likely than not, it's going to sound a lot more natural. You're going to hear a lot more of a connection there, because now we know each other. Now we've met. Now we've talked. And so for me, as just like a person that's really interested in the interactions of people, those are the sorts of things I love hearing about. I love hearing about the connections behind the projects and the stories and all of those things. Those are the things that I'm like, oh, I could watch hours and hours of that. That's why I really enjoy podcasts, because you get to see someone in a more non-formal setting, just talking. Who's the actor? There's a voice actor by the name, I think it's Paul Castro Jr. He does a podcast called Points of Experience. And one of the things I love so much about his podcast is it's a voice actor who often interviews other voice actors. And so they get to have some really great conversations, because you just don't see that a lot. And, you know, some of them he knows prior, and they have these connections. And yeah, I love, maybe in another life I would have been a sociologist, just studying people.
Honestly, it is fun. I've seen some of these things, like being in Joshua Seth's class.
Yeah.
He's talked about a lot of the stuff, especially he also talked a lot about Digimon the movie, and like how they were treated like stars when they were actually recording for it back in the day. And I'm just like, oh wow, that sounds like a lot of fun, like just being with your fellow voice actors and just like getting all this stuff done and being like getting the royal treatment out of it. I'm like, damn. Wish I could experience that.
Yeah, you know, for sure, that would be awesome. One of the things that I remember Marissa saying, she was like, oh, I wish that we could have done like a premiere for these movies. You know, I wish that we could. God,
yes.
Oh.
I mean, they screen them at Otakon, but like a premiere for the cast, or like we could all come and be together and interact. And I know for us new actors, you know, that would be something that would be so wonderful to get to meet our heroes and stuff. And this is, again, talking about the fun behind the scenes interaction. All of us new actors who stepped into roles, like all of the voice match actors, we have a group chat. So we all we have a group chat with each other.
Oh my God.
Messages, cool. Like occasionally. It's fairly recent, but you know, it's just one of those things where I really am thankful that I've gotten to interact with them, because we're going to have this experience that is so unique to the group of us that not a lot of people get to have. Like, how often are you bringing in like a small, I wouldn't say an army, but you know, like you're bringing in like a sizable group of voice match.
Digi brigade, if you will.
Yeah, right. Like we're a Sentai squad. We're 5 Power Rangers deep. That they're bringing in for voice matches. Like you usually don't have that many coming on to a project all at once, and so it's been good to know that like, hey, we're in this together. And I think one of the things that's been really exciting for me is obviously I'm very pleased with how the movies came out for my own performance, but I've been fanning out so much over my new castmates. You know, Elsie Lovelock as Mimi, and Madeline Doro as Cody, and Brad, he's done such a great job with the Greymon. Like, when you're watching the movie, you don't even recognize that it's a different Greymon in Our War Greymon.
I was actually gonna say, what was her name? Lovelock?
Elsie Lovelock. She does Mimi.
Elsie. Yeah. Yo, because she also did the grandma.
It's perfect, right?
It's exact. Exact. And you could have told me that you had resurrected the original voice actress. She did that role and then just went back to her grave, and I would have believed you. Yeah, like 100%.
It's a one I could not, but like, I remember being like, yeah, I feel pretty good about my preparation. I feel like I really nailed it. And then I heard Elsie and I was like, all right, whatever you did, I need to take notes from you because you crushed the matching job.
And she also sounded pretty like it, almost exact like Mimi as well. Like you could have convinced me otherwise. You could have convinced me that they made technology to bring someone back from the dead. She was so good. Everyone else as well. Like who did Cody's voice again? Madeline
Doro, and then Jessica Peterson does Yoli.
Yoli, look, it's a close enough match. She did well. As it went on, it felt like she got more comfortable with it in the third part of the movie. She definitely did. Cody's voice, you could have easily convinced me, because it's so mind blowing how close every one of you guys got to like the original performances. It's so crazy.
It sounds like
so that's why I wanted to have that space for us to really just kind of interact and like sing each other's praises, because it's such a unique experience. And an extra bonus point, I mean, Elsie, if she ever watches this, she'll be like, oh my gosh, Eli's a huge fan. Another bonus point for her is she's British. Like, that's
I was gonna say that she's British. She got rid of that accent. She literally went, don't need that. Gone.
Yeah, accent and voice match. Truly an amazing one-of-one talent. So yeah, it's great. I'm excited to be part of this group, and I feel so fortunate getting to talk to fellow voice actors and getting to talk to you all as well. Like, all my life when I was growing up, there was moments where I felt like I was on an island. Like, I loved these things and it felt like nobody else loved them the way that I did. And now as an adult, to be able to connect people like, you love this thing the way that I love this thing, or you're interested in this thing the way that I'm interested in this thing.
I'm not alone in this world.
Yeah, so people are like, what's the best part about being a voice actor? It's like getting to talk to people that love the same things that you do. Like, that for me is the coolest part. Like, yeah, getting to be in shows and movies and stuff is cool, but like, it's the connections with the people. That's the stuff that's like feeds the soul.
I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, because like we're a small YouTube channel. Like, we haven't even cracked 1,000 yet. Who knows by the time this goes up, because we're recording this in advance, guys, but you know, maybe we'll crack 1,000. I don't know. I mean, Digimon has done a lot for me throughout the years. Like, heck, I posted this video about Digimon World 3 and it exploded. Like, it got over 20,000 views, and like we went from like 400 to over 500 right there. And I'm just like, wait, what? I was just trying to talk about it. I didn't know it was going to go this crazy.
You got to make videos more about Digimon. I've been telling you this.
It prints money.
Bio, I promise we'll keep recording more Cyber Sleuth.
I don't need Cyber Sleuth. I want you to play Digimon World 3.
You play through it?
Play through it, yeah, you and me.
That is a grindy game.
We have a guidebook.
We do have your guidebook. That was actually very helpful in the video, by the way. Alrighty, so we've been here for quite a while talking to you, Eli, and I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak to like these two goofy fans of yours and of Digimon, man. It's been so great talking to you and getting to know you. Hopefully they do more of these redubs. I mean, not to say that the other movies that they dubbed later on, like in the Disney era, weren't good, but there are some things they can maybe fix up, you know? So hopefully they'll contact you for that. Maybe if they bring over Ghost Game, you know, you can voice in that too. Hopefully I can voice in that too. Let me not lie.
We'll be doing.
And I don't know if you guys have been reading it, but Digimon Liberator is really good.
Yeah,
I've been loving it.
And some great designs coming out for the new Digimon in that series.
You kidding me? Like, I even created one of the decks from the comic. Like, I have the deck right here.
Oh, wow.
Terramon and Shoto.
Right on.
And every Friday on our Discord, me and a bunch of friends basically voice it. Like, we go through the comic and we voice some of the characters. And I just went, no, I'm taking Terramon because I got the perfect voice for Terramon right here. And it's just fun doing this sort of stuff. So it's one of the reasons why I love talking to voice actors. It's just a fun thing. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, you get to bring life and a personality to something that's drawn by someone else.
Yeah. And you know, Hans and Bio both, something I will say is it was 2021. I had just done Dragon Ghost House Hunting, and someone had asked me to come on their podcast. And they asked me about, what's something that you would love to be in? Because I was thinking about this when you said, I would love to be in Ghost Game, fingers crossed. Something I would love to be in. And I mentioned Digimon, and it happened. So I say that to say, anyone that's listening, to you two both, right? Like, manifest those things. Put energy, put time in thinking about those things. I don't know how real that mysticism stuff works.
Law of attraction. Law of attraction.
I feel like it's worked for me. So please keep putting that out there. Please keep showing your love. Because if nothing else, even if it doesn't come to fruition in that way, it will fill your cup and you will be happy that you did it. So don't ever change is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, no, I'm never changing. I'm going to be this spry young buck until I die, even when I got the wrinkles and the gray hairs, which I'm already. Yeah. Anyway, Bio, is there anything you want to say before we log off?
To those who are watching, watch our Let's Play of Digimon Cyber Sleuth. We do our own voice acting in there with voice mods as well.
Oh, yeah, Bio's got those voice mods, man.
Fancy.
He got those good voice mods.
Eli, thank you again for this interview. It was an honor.
Thank you all. Again, it's mutual. When I was growing up, I always remember being the person that I felt like got overlooked, and so now it's very different to be at this place in my life where you want to sit down and talk to me. So it's a tremendous honor, and I'm so thankful for the time.
Excellent. So before we log off, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you. Plug any social medias you got. Go ahead and tell them.
Yeah. So as far as finding me, you can find me on Twitter at the Eli Farmer, and you can find me on Instagram also at the Eli Farmer. I'm now on Blue Sky as well, where you can find me just Eli Farmer. And if any of that is too complicated, if you just Google Eli Farmer, I will pop up because I'm the only Eli Farmer that is an actor. So shouldn't be too hard to piece me together.
And if all that is still too hard, we're going to have his links in the comments below. So you guys can just easily click that, you lazy people. Anyway, thanks again, both you, Bio, and you, Eli. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you next time, and everybody take care.